And now the next person, as is a tradition, we always start with prayer, is a welcome address. And this is a person who comes from a great family. I love her mom. She's someone who's always believed in second chances, always believed in the importance of reentry. Not only as Lieutenant Governor and working closely with the governor, but also as Commissioner of the Department of Community Affairs, making sure that we were able to do during the height of the public health emergency, when we wanted to house people in churches. She worked with us to change regulations. The LG, Sheila, worked with us to be able to provide foodstuffs and clothing. And so, and working with our women on the Women's Project. What I am so grateful for is someone who always walks truth to power, an incredible woman who comes from a great branch of a great trunk of a tree, and my dear friend, our Lieutenant Governor, Sheila Oliver. Sheila?
Yes, good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the New Jersey Reentry Corporation and particularly Governor James McGreevey. Jim, as you all know, took on with tenacity the growth and development of New Jersey Reentry Corporation. And I'd like to welcome all of you here this morning who have joined in to support this effort to create dialogue and a forum for us to continue to press a social justice agenda of doing all that we can to help people who have had the experience of being incarcerated gain their lives back and enter into the mainstream. People often seek to stereotype those who have experienced incarceration. Unfortunately, in our country, the United States, we incarcerate more people than any country in the world. Obviously, we are doing something wrong. Incarceration is not supposed to be about punishment. It's supposed to be about rehabilitation and the opportunity for people to reset their lives. That's what this conference is about. And Jim has done a wonderful job helping people connect with educational opportunity, with housing, with support and social services. And all of us are committed to making certain that NJRC is a mainstay in New Jersey. On behalf of Governor Murphy, Jim, I'd like to tell you that we are delighted that you continue this work, your board and everyone that's engaged with you. I'd like to thank all of the sponsors that have stepped up to support the work of NJRC. I'd love to welcome Van Jones and Dr. Chris and Reverend Al Sharpton and all of our other speakers. We know that you are committed to this mission as well. And Jim, I love and respect your ministry. So thank you and great conference.
And could you just, LG, I just want to say thank you, because during the height of the public health emergency, you were able to waive regulations that allowed people that were coming home from prison and coming home from jail that didn't have housing to stay in church sanctuaries. You were able to work with us with the National Action Network to feed persons coming out of prison that might not have had the benefits of SNAP or food stamps. And so I think when I look at your leadership as LG, Sheila, you've also made government work and you've got a great team there. And could you just share just for a second how your years in Newark and your years in the legislature, how that has shaped your sense of action, getting things done? I mean, it's sometimes difficult with government, but you help to make change, which has a material result for our people. Could you just talk to that for a second?
I can. And for those that don't know me, I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. I tell young people that Newark was a very different place when I was growing up. But after I got my formal education, I returned to the city and I became a community activist. Whatever the public policy issues that were going along, creation of affordable housing, access to publicly funded and subsidized housing. I worked with young people in the city, elderly, and I began to join with other activists in the city to really push up on government to do more for people. I think that ending up as an elected official, it was something the furthest from my mind. But I know that the experiences that I had working at a grassroots level helped me as a government official know how to push the buttons to make government work for people, to make it less bureaucratic, to make it compassionate, to make it accessible, and to have an open door to everyone. And those are the experiences, Jim, I think that helped me as the commissioner of the Department of Community Affairs. I continue to believe in a power base from the ground up, not the top down.
And Sheila, LG, could you just share with your vision for, I mean, we moved 3,000 persons through the public health emergency out of prison, so we brought the population down. And the Department of Community Affairs has been tremendous in supporting reentry programs, housing opportunities. Can you just talk about, as God willing, New Jersey shifts from an incarceration model to a reentry model, how DCA and government can support that change?
Yes, DCA is going to be more important in this state over and above its statutory responsibility. We all know that housing and affordable housing and accessible housing is probably the priority for folks that are coming out of institutions and back into their respective communities. We have the opportunity in the department to create affordable housing. Last year, in the midst of a pandemic, we worked with our partners in the private and nonprofit sector, and we produced 5,500 new housing units. Through our federally funded programs, our programs at the Housing Mortgage Finance Agency, our programs at the New Jersey Redevelopment Authority, our focus is on creating housing for low-income people. And we feel that with Biden's American Rescue Plan, more than $300 billion in the American Rescue Plan is dedicated to the creation of affordable housing. So we are extremely excited because we know we can do more. We want to dedicate more Section 8 vouchers to make them available for people who are getting back on their feet and trying to get on with their lives. We fund a number of other support services through nonprofits. And one of the other things we want to do is support the families of those who have been formerly incarcerated. We want to support the children of those who have been formerly incarcerated. And we know that often there's estrangement from family, but we want to help our nonprofit network that we work for with you at NJRC also focus on reestablishing relationships. And we want to do that through our community services block grant funding and our community development block grant funding. Jim, as a matter of fact, I'm working with a group of women who were formerly incarcerated. They were both in state institutions and federal. I've learned a great deal from those women about their experience, and you're going to be very pleased at some things you're going to see come out of DCA on behalf of formerly incarcerated women.
So I just think it's also really important, and I'm really grateful because, as you know, LJ, that for many of people coming out of prison, that they're unable to be in federal housing because of the restrictions. And so it's so important that New Jersey provides some level of flexibility. Can you just talk to the barriers that literally prohibit persons coming out of state prison from living in federal public housing, and how that actually restricts their options? We have clients that, I shouldn't say this, but will go to public housing at night after 11 o'clock so that nobody sees them, sleep there during the course of the night and get out by 6 o'clock. Because if they're found there, their mother or their aunt or their grandmother, whomever, or loved ones, will have their public housing jeopardized.
Yeah, I think that was a horrible policy that was implemented during the Feds by the Feds, and it was implemented during a really horrific period of leadership in our state, in the country. I am aware of that policy, and I know of distraught mothers, distraught wives. It creates a lot of uncertainty for children because they can't understand. I think it's a horrific policy. But Jim, I have a lot of hope that former Congresswoman Marcia Fudge is now the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Marcia came up representing at a local level a disadvantaged community. I am hoping that through the leadership of Secretary Fudge, we can see some reversal of that policy, because it is unfair, it is discriminatory, and it's unproven that it makes public housing unsafe. We have to get beyond that stereotype, and that policy must be repealed.
Because, and I'll just leave you with these two thoughts. We talked, and I'm so grateful for some of the opportunities with the Biden administration, but through your office, is that if persons, say, for example, had to come out of prison and were enrolled, whether it's NJRC or VOA, that we could be able to show that persons were participating and that were enrolled. Because the challenge is that Sheila Oliver, DCA, can produce another 5,000 plus units, but if there's no access, it becomes a very difficult challenge to access those federal dollars. And then again, I just also wanted to say thank you to you particularly for allowing us to house our persons in churches and houses of worship, whether through the National Action Network for the Latino Pastors Coalition, and working with people like Leslie McRae and my sister Sharon to help support these individuals. You reenacted many of the waivers that Governor Christie had done during Sandy to allow people to stay during the public health emergency. Just why was that so important?
Because we knew that we wanted to expeditiously take people out of harm's way. We did move 3,000 people out of the state institutions, and we did that because it was the right thing to do, and we were in the midst of a global pandemic. Now, did we know a pandemic was on the way? Absolutely not. So we had to gear up overnight to figure out how we were going to let people leave the institution, but be safe, have a place to sleep, have meals, and to have some support. So it was a no-brainer. For me, it was no-brainer for my staff. I have a wonderful, wonderful staff at DCA. They are dedicated. Codes and Standards immediately began to work with me to write up a new policy regulation that permitted that. And Jim, we are always open to New Jersey Reentry Corporation coming to us, telling us about a policy or a regulation that is impeding progress. And we are more than willing to examine that, and if necessary, going to the legislature for a statutory amendment.
And I think that that's what you did. And I just want to, we've just come through this public health crisis, and with 3,000 persons and so much support from so many organizations. But I think on a governmental level, without your leadership and DCA's flexibility, we were able to house people, we were able to feed people through the support of so many volunteers. And then also now, and I can't thank you enough, and the leadership of you, Governor Murphy, Senate President Sweeney, Speaker Coughlin, we are also vaccinating all of the NJRC program participants. And so I want to thank Dr. Kasha, but I also want to thank the LG, because with the federally qualified health centers, we've made sure that everybody's vaccinated. And so Sheila, that would not have happened without your leadership.
Thank you, Jim, and yours as well. And just know we're always here for you.
No, thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you at our grand opening of our new reentry training facility. And that's going to be on Wednesday, April 28th. And so I know it's on your calendar and your schedule. And I just want to say thank you. So in a special way, I also want to say thank you to your mother, who is, how old is she now?
She's 93. And she still talks about you coming to her 90th birthday. She really she said, I love him because he came to my birthday party.
So thank you very much. And again, I just want to thank the LG, because in a serious way, we came through this public health emergency. I think people were concerned with what was going to happen for the 3,000 persons that were released. And thanks to your leadership, the leadership of the governor, the Senate president, and the speaker, and all the nonprofit community, people were able to come through in a relatively good place. And just also thanks to your leadership and Carol Johnson's, is move people into Medicaid, into SNAP, into general assistance, and to sustain themselves. So LG, in the midst of a crisis, it's always good to have a friend on the other side of a phone, and things have calmed down. But during those initial months, having Sheila Oliver there was a game changer. So from my heart, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Jim, and great conference day today.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
Care.
Ladies and gentlemen, our great Lieutenant Governor, I just want to say thank you to her and thank you for her time. And what I just mentioned to the Lieutenant Governor, and I just want to say thank her again, is that we're moving to have, and we're really excited about it, on Wednesday, April 28th, we'll have the opening of the first statewide reentry training center, and that will be in Kearney, New Jersey. And that's thanks to the generosity of the great Wendy New at Kearney Point. It'll be 9 classrooms. We'll be offering a wide range of programs from electrical, plumbing, HVAC, OSHA 10, OSHA 30, pre-apprenticeship program. We'll also be working with New Communities Corporation, Sansone Auto on mechanics. Again, I want a special shout out to our Commissioner of Labor, Rob, and his entire staff, Nick Toth and Assistant Commissioner Hugh Bailey, for making sure that our guys and gals have access to pre-apprenticeship training. And then we'll also be providing training as to solar. We'll be connecting people also to wind, and also making sure that people have access to these technologies. So in a special way, what New Jersey Reentry is doing, and I'd also want to give a special thank out to the great pastor, Keith Davis of the Camden Dream Center. Right now we have 93 people enrolled in Cisco certification at some point along the line. So this is going to be on April 28th. We're going to be posting on our website, and I'm really, really excited. So I just can't emphasize that enough. And we've seen the downturn in employment. And so now what our goal is to provide for industry recognized credentials so that people can go to an employment office, can go to a prospective corporation and show that they have this sheet of paper, this certification, so that they're able to secure a job and employment.